In any case,
Oh, we're starting.
have a nice day. Well, have a nice evening.
Time is 6 o'clock. Just before I call the meeting to order, I've got a couple of items I'd like to bring up. One, it's Councillor Burton's birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Why everyone's here.
Thanks for coming to my birthday party. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Here's the wine.
Right?
Secondly, I'd like to call for a moment of silence. One of Prescott's own passed away this weekend, Donald Barton. I'm just going to read his 2017 Prescott Citizen of the Year bio. As a longtime resident of Prescott, Donald Barton has committed countless hours of service and dedication to many activities, programs, and events in the area. Don's support of Prescott over many decades has included his time spent being a driver for the Victorian Order of Nurses, serving on the Sandy Hill Cemetery Board and the Prescott Waste Management Committee, volunteering at countless suppers and events at St. Paul's United Church, and participating in annual community cleanup days. Recognition is never motivation for Don's tireless and unwavering dedication to the town of Prescott and its residents. Don's example of community service is an inspiration to all of Prescott. So I'm just going to take a moment of silence there. Thank you, everyone. All right, so now I'm going to call the meeting to order. Time is 6:02. Item 2 on the agenda is approval of the agenda. The motion reads that the agenda for the council meeting of Monday, January 15th, 2024 be approved as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder? Moved by Birthday Burton, seconded by Councillor Young. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 3 is declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest tonight? Seeing none, we'll move forward. 4, there are no presentations this evening. And item 5 is delegations. There are 2 delegations for this evening's meeting. 5.1 is a delegation from the Save the Park group. Mr. Louis Zeliata is representing the group.
Well, first of all, good evening, Council and Mayor. Thank you for allowing me to speak and speak on behalf of a lot of us. This Saturday, we had a really wonderful day, despite the weather. It was a good day for a lot of people to show democracy, and I actually want to thank the town. I know if I had tried to do this in any other town, the fines and the impediment would have been a lot worse, but I actually do appreciate that. And that shows that there's commitment for democracy on both sides and listening. And I actually want to thank you. I want to thank the people that came out in the rain. It was not fun, but it is what it is, and we're just showing our side of our why we want to stand up for this piece of green space. It was nice to see some of you councillors and even 3 ex-mayors whose opinions and history with this site should be considered relevant. Our campaign to raise awareness to the green space has been focused on policy and ensuring we put out facts to the public. In total today, we have 400 plus people signed up in our petition. The question I have for all of you is, will you listen to the people's voices and comments that they have sent to you via email, phone calls, and mail? Like many residents have asked, does my voice and opinion count, or has the council made up their minds before they even set this stand up place as surplus? Accountability and transparency is the top of mind in our community, and we actually, I will say, I do see it because I know that a lot of councillors have got back to a lot of people, including the mayor, and that is a good sign for everybody. And here in the community, everyone is asking why the rush to sell this beautiful green space. It has served the public for over 100 years. There seems to be an effort to downplay or downgrade this space as a barren vacant lot that attracts only dog poop, but this is far more from the truth. It has been an active community space for many generations. There have been many periods with active ice rinks, cadet parades, ultimate frisbee, and other events. But even without sports infrastructure, it is a healthy green park with mature, beautiful trees. The community does appreciate the space as a park, including some dog owners, but residents of all ages. The park would not need much community investment for it to be something special. The Prescott Town Council and Mayor speak of importance of housing, and that I would agree. But yet the census and other reports do not support that there is a severe shortage here in Prescott. There is an average of 6 homes for sale in our town alone for longer than periods of time, an average when taking numbers from Realtor.ca. And if we need more housing, there are so many other opportunities to pursue before building on this park. But I also add that back in July 2022, the town of Prescott sold surplus land to a developer. The land located was west of Boundary Street, south of the railway, about 4.7 acres, which according to the CAO, anywhere between 50 to 70 residential units can be built. And these units that were addressed are a mixture medium type density from the developer's potential site plan. Has construction begun on this project? The answer is no. But I will give Prescott an accommodation because they did push for major density. And that's an accommodation for Mr. Armstrong. I understand there are still development spaces in the Woodland subdivision owned by the town. But before we get there, let's confirm some facts. The Township of Augusta is in full steam with their subdivision planning of about roughly maximum 300 homes. It's not 100% yet, but that is their maximum goal. It's located 4 blocks away on the same street as the green space on James Street West. So that's a total of 300 homes with potentially 40 homes in their first phase. And they're doing it like so from what I talked to the planning because of the infrastructure they got to put in, and they're looking at how many trades we actually have in the area. The average age of a plumber is 52. The average age of a carpenter is 58. So there has to be an compass that, yes, everybody would love to build 150 homes a year. There's just not that many hands that are willing to do the work or want to live. Of these homes, there would be detached and multifamily homes, as well as a high density to support the requirements for affordable housing. This is a step in the right direction, and as a matter of the fact, the Township of Augusta is having a council meeting on this very project today. It is a fact that the Township of Augusta is contributing to construction and infrastructure costs of the water tower because they would like to receive some of that water service. And I will say, it's the right step that Prescott pushed them, that if they want water service, they got to pay for it. Although I agree that the town Prescott needs more revenue to cover their costs, it is true. The revenue will be there. It will not be a lot, but if they do connect to the subdivision or the current infrastructure of the sewer, they have to pay for a portion of it. I know that our sewer is very expensive. It's aging, it's constantly breaking in some areas, but that's like any other town. And if they can help with the sewer cost, there is that cost levy for it. Maybe the town can look at outside sources of, we're giving you the sewer, you're using our services. Maybe we get so much per closing on the lot of value when you give it to the developer. Just an idea out there. So therefore, with a subdivision of just 800 meters away, why the rush for the removal of the green space? It just doesn't make sense. I have seeked out to the Liberal candidate for this riding and the MPP's office. And although they both said we don't get involved in municipal matters, which is correct, they both can't understand why the removal of the green space when they want to implement some of that development money that they have in the Ontario coffers to push for development. And I will say that is very well said because why should they intervene in any of our affairs? But I wanted to know their perspective. I can't answer the question of why the mayor and council were in here, but why it was done behind closed doors. I understand that meetings have to be done behind closed doors for budgets. I just can't understand why this wasn't brought forward as a public consultation. There was no economic or environmental study done, and most of all, just bringing the people forward on it. The mayor and the staff have suggested that this decision to declare the public surplus was just the beginning of the process, and that it is the only process you can follow to start a discussion for use of the space. I would argue that it is legal. That doesn't make it right. Rather, the whole process seems backwards. If you want to engage the public in an open discussion about the possible use of this space, you can just call an open town hall style meeting first. Then if the consensus is to sell it off, then you can declare the space surplus. Then you meet with potential developers, but in this case, it just became obvious that council has been planning behind closed doors and meeting with developers. I'm not saying that you guys are bad at doing what you're doing. The land belongs to the town. But we just feel that there could have been more of an informative process where the public could have been involved. There's nothing illegal about this, but it is the appropriate, we just want to know if it's the appropriate use for in-camera meetings. Set all those technicalities aside, the reality is that this is our last public green space in the West End. It is enjoyed by many residents for multi-functions, from going for a walk, reading a book under a tree, or walking your dog, or just having a break in your day. Like a few ex-mayors have said, we have never designated this green space as a park because it is zoned institutional and we would never have thought of selling it. There are other great vacant areas in Prescott with full natural gas and sewer services for developers to consider before they consider this green space. We all speak of climate change, but we just can't understand how removing this park would contribute to make it any better. Even physical and mental health, we all know the importance of green spaces can have in just changing somebody's day. The mature trees that are over 70 years old give a beautiful view for all, and they add to the heritage of what we are proud to call Prescott, as well as controlling temperatures. Yes, this green space has many possibilities that can be improved with more park benches, tables, exercise stations, or more. The possibilities are endless, and I know you all have received many recommendations for them. Some recommendations that have been sent to you are very elaborate, like Ian's garden, which is, very, very nice and elaborate, to some very simple ideas that can work for the town. The biggest thing is we don't want to be more of a burden where the town has to take care of more recreational, more spaces or more benches to be together. But I think if there was some public consultation, I think we can come up with some ideas. We don't want you to turn your back on this green space because it is beautiful. We just want to have some enjoyment so we can give it to the future generations ahead of us. Listen to last week's Prescott strategic plan, priorities and objectives. There were some of the key points that were laid to you. Create a community recreation committee to identify recreational opportunities for all generations. Support age-friendly programs and initiatives allowing residents to age in place. Perhaps such a decision to close a community playground space should wait for input from a public advisory committee. Considering all generations and age-friendly means two things: recreation and leisure for all ages, not just children, current generations and future generations. You need to consider natural demographic waves. A few years ago, there were a lot more children in this zone. Now the wave has moved on. But we already are seeing new young families start to move in. Maybe that last generation of kids will come back to raise their families, but not if we have paved over the green spaces and playgrounds. Another objective is to implement.
Louis, you got 10 minutes and you're at 10 minutes, so can you wrap it up, please?
Yeah, absolutely, not a problem. Really, I'll just put it in closing like this. Bringing in 3, 4, 5 new families maximum, it's great. No one will ever say that's bad, but we just feel that if you do that, you're gonna disenfranchise an entire community of the West End. I don't think anybody here has a malice hard to do it. I just want you to actually just see what it's for us. A lot of you ran for Prescott proud, and you are very proud Prescott residents. We just don't want to be sold out. That's all it is. So thank you very much.
All right, 5.2 is a delegation from Jean Dufour regarding the green space. Jean, you got 10 minutes here.
No, I don't have a lot of written notes. Mine is as a former property owner. I used to own the house that Louis now lives in. I owned it from 1974 to the year 2000, when I sold it to my youngest son, and then sold it in 2011 to Louis. And I was a student in this high school, this building, many years ago. And when I bought the house, it was after everything had taken place. But after we moved in, and it came an occasion that the town council decided to take the green space and build townhouses on it. And when that was announced, Mr. DeBrule, Jerry DeBrule, lived across the street from me, and Jerry had lived there for many, many years. He and his brother, Judge Moss DeBrule, owned the Prescott Logingsburg ferry line. And Jerry came to me and said, Jean, they cannot do that, because he said when the Board of Education sold that property to the town of Prescott to be used as a town hall, they had to rezone it because it was residential. It had to be rezoned. And when the rezoning was put out, the rezoning conditions were that all property owners surrounding had to approve the rezoning change. So when they went to the property owners, which was Jerry DeBrule and Denzel Locke and that, they had a condition. And in order to get their, and the other property owner, in order to get their approval for the rezoning, the green space had to remain forever a green space to be enjoyed by the neighbors, always. And so he went to the town council, wrote a letter, and it was dropped about any building on that property. This property was been enjoyed for years. I raised 3 sons at 404 James Street West. They and their friends played football, baseball, underneath that, and I actually has a funny side, somebody reminded me the other day, once a year when the boys, they got older and their friends and they were at university, when they all came home for a weekend, the call came out that they were gonna have an east-west football game, and it became known as the toilet bowl. So they had the toilet bowl every Thanksgiving weekend, played on the green space, and boys came from all sides of Prescott. This end of Prescott is the heritage part of the town. My house, now Louis' house, was built by one of Colonel Jessup's children. And if you saw Louis' basement, you would know it was built way back then because the basement is boulders with cement filled in between now. Colonel Jessup lived in, his home was the Clark residence. So to put, like when the townhouses, the reason we objected was going to depreciate all the heritage homes in this end of town. Because these homes, a lot of them like Louis now, are heritage homes that were built by the Jessup family. And like the east end of Prescott, some of those homes, and I don't know if there's anybody here as old as me, the story that some of the homes down there, the soldiers from the fort lived in, and there were tunnels actually from some of those homes leading to the fort. That in the event of an attack, the soldiers could get to the fort without being seen. Now these are just history facts, but it's just the paperwork, and I know that people are looking for the paperwork because unfortunately, I'm the only one left alive from the neighborhood that was subject to all of this. And I'm sure Jerry's looking down on me and saying, go fight, Gene, go fight, because he fought for it, and I'm just here on his behalf and the others' behalf. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. 6 is minutes of the previous council meeting. So 6.1, I have a motion that reads, council minutes dated January 8th, 2024 be accepted as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor McConnell, Councillor Kirkby, any discussion? All in favor? Okay. 7 is communications and petitions, of which there are none. 8 is consent reports. Is there anything on the consent report do you want to see pulled from the package? No? So the recommendation is that all items listed under the consent report section of the agenda be accepted as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Young, Deputy Mayor Lockett. Any discussion? Discussion? No? All in favor? Carried, thank you. No committee reports this evening. Mayor reports, last week was a JSC meeting, which was an important meeting. They had a presentation from Indwell, which is with regards to the homeless issue. They're looking for a place to put a house for homeless people. So that was an interesting meeting for sure. Item 11 is outside boards, committees, and commissions. Why don't we start with Councillor Young?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. Not a whole lot to report since last week. We had one BIA meeting on last Tuesday. A new executive was voted in because the positions are only for 1 year. And then I would let everybody know that the Invest Prescott newsletter is available, which has lots of great information. It's online. If anybody needs the link, you can go to the Town of Prescott website, but if anybody wants like a hard copy, let me know and I can get you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McConnell?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I only had one meeting in the past week. That was the Heritage Committee. The Heritage Committee had a special meeting, I guess you might call it. We usually meet once a month toward the end of the month. This meeting was called in specific to address the subject of why all these folks are here tonight. In discussion, it was decided amongst the Heritage Committee that we did not have enough information information of the type that we normally require to make a recommendation to council, or even if we could make a recommendation to council. So that information has been requested from the Historic Society by way of Fraser Lossinger, and it will be coming forth to the Heritage Committee at some time in the near future, at which time we will readdress the matter, and then we will decide whether there is sufficient information and of the type that we can make a recommendation to council, or what that recommendation would be. I would note, though, that in the discussion, each separate member of the Heritage Committee indicated that they were not in favor of selling this property back here. And one member in particular, that would be Councillor Ray Young, who has been on council for a lot longer than my 4 terms, indicated that at no time when he was on council did any member express an interest in selling this property behind us. And if he was a current member of council, he would not be voting in favor of it. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Lockett?
Well, I attended the same 2 meetings as these councillors did. Like Tracy said, there was a new chair for the BIA, and there was also a new chair for the Heritage Committee. It was an interesting committee. I didn't realize it was a special committee, but it was a very good meeting. And we have a Board of Health meeting next week.
Thank you. Councillor Kirkby.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Shankar. I also attended the Heritage Committee meeting, and I will use the terms interesting, as was the speech tonight. What I will say about the outside boards, though, is we all seen the snow. It was cleaned up. They cleared the path in front of the post office all the way up to the fire hall. They did generator checks prior to the storm coming in to make sure that all backup power was available if needed, which it turned out it wasn't really that much of a storm. And the bridge is 97% complete, so it should have been complete last week, but due to the snow, it pushed us back. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell?
Mayor Shankar, I seem to have had a lazy week because I had no meetings and didn't attend any others, so I'm sure I'll have more to report next time.
Thank you. Birthday girl Burton.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I too did not have any meetings, but they're all starting up next week.
Okay, very good.
Lots to report.
Thank you. All right, looks like we got 5 staff reports, so we'll get started right away. 12.1 is staff report 03-2024, the 2024 to 2027 strategic plan draft for public feedback. This report is from CAO Matthew Armstrong. I'm just going to read the recommendation first. The council directs staff to undertake a survey to elicit feedback on the 24-27 strategic plan draft. Can I have a mover and seconder for discussion? Councillor Burton, Deputy Mayor Lockett. Mr. Armstrong?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So following last week's meeting, we did go through, make the changes, including adding exceptional and of choice to the current vision statement. We included the word heritage as part of the environmental and heritage stewardship. We also went with mission statement number 1 as option number 1, as council agreed to. Under priority 2, we added community health under the community health and safety and well-being to advocate for the recruitment of additional medical, mental, addictions, and health practitioners. And a new bullet was added under priority 3 to research and implement waterfront protection strategies in response to the effects of climate change. We also had the opportunity to take a look at a suggestion by Suzanne, who was the consultant on the strategic plan, and that was the basis for the survey that you see attached in the package this evening. So what we were trying to do is determine, first of all, Prescott resident, basic area from where they are within Prescott, the age of the person, identification of what they see as opportunities and threats to the town. And then as well as what they liked about the plan and anything that may have been missing. So that's really where we are at the moment, and I'm happy to answer any questions there might be or to move forward as council sees fit. Thank you.
I'm going to open up the floor to questions. Councillor Burton?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Matthew and staff for this quick turnaround. It was a lot to digest, and we didn't make a lot of changes, but we did make a few, and I appreciate all their hard work and getting this out and ready for our residents to go through the survey. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burton. Any other questions for Councillor Campbell?
Through you, Mayor Shankar, are we talking about the survey as well tonight? I just have a couple of small, minor. What is that now?
Suggestions?
Okay. The town of Prescott is undertaking a review and update of its 2020-2023 strategic plan. I find that confusing. I know what your intent was, but could we just say we're initiating a new strategic plan and take out those dates?
Sure.
Okay, thanks. I believe there was a spelling mistake. Where was that? Lens, should just be Lens, not Lenses. Oh, no, I can't find it. Oh, it's, the first page, why is strategic planning important? 1, 2, 3, fourth bullet down. It provides a lens, Lens. And I'm just wondering if we could have a discussion, or if you would agree that instead of saying, what do you identify as threats, could we put what do you identify as challenges?
Sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Burton?
Thank you. I'm sorry, Councillor Campbell, but I totally disagree with taking out the dates, because the dates are important for tracking purposes. And, you know, we started it in 2020, so if you take out those dates, we're not going to be able to track the survey. You know what I mean? That's my opinion. Dates are important.
I just read that and I thought, oh, that's the wrong strategic plan. It's the last one.
Yeah, we're updating the last one. And
Yeah.
it's good for people to know when the last one was.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just read it differently.
And can we add maybe a slash, threat slash challenge? Because it's important. You good with that? Okay. Anyone else? Councillor McConnell, I just saw your hand up earlier.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. An addition that I think should be in here, and this one's not going to win me any friends in town hall, but I think it's important that people recognize that the direction of the town, as by our regulations that are set down by the province, is supposed to come from council. And I think that it would be interesting to know if the people who respond to this are of the opinion that the vision should come from council alone, or a combination of the team that we have here at the town hall of council and staff. Staff have some very good ideas, but if you take the wording of our directions word for word, they are not included in the actual designing of what we want to do. I've had this question for several weeks, quite frankly, from back in December, shortly after we had the strategic plan. And what I wanted was to ask Suzanne her opinion on whether strategic plans should be formalized by council or by a combination of council and staff, because we have done it with council and staff before when I was here. Unfortunately, I was denied the connection to Suzanne by our CAO, Mr. Armstrong over here, but I did get it after that from another source. I asked her the question, and she said it depends on the town. Some towns want to do it just the council. Some towns want to do it with council and staff. Her personal recommendation was council and staff. But given the events of the last several months, I think it would be interesting if we could put a line in there to see how the people who elect us actually think. Do they think that we should be alone designing the way forward for Prescott, or should we be doing it with the advice of staff or input of staff as well? Thank you.
Just so you were clear, what do you prefer? You prefer just to have council? You don't want any staff input at all?
I'm undecided, to be honest with you, but I'm open to.
Okay, I have a question.
I'd like to know what the people think. According to our manual, the way I read it, and I've read it several times over the past.
Is it going to change our vision and mission statement?
Well, it could very well. It could very well.
Councilor Burton.
Thank you. Councilor McConnell, unfortunately, I totally disagree. We have 4 new councilors this term. Maybe they didn't follow politics years ago. So this is their first 1 year. We have staff that have been with us for over 30 years. So they are boots on the ground walking. They talk to people all the time. They have great ideas. You know, our rink staff, are you in the rink and watching them, what works and what doesn't work? Absolutely not. I mean, I'm in there playing hockey, but I don't go to the Zamboni room and say, hey guys, what's working, what's not? These are trained people that have been with us and dedicated to our team. And I say team as in staff and council, because we're not going to walk in the fire hall going, hey chief, well, what's working and what's not? They know. They know. And we should definitely have staff and council, because we all have different opinions and we all have new ideas. But the people that have been around here for many decades, boots on the ground, definitely, we want to listen to them. We're all one team.
You got one, yeah?
Thank you. Well, Councillor, I completely disagree with you. We do have 4 new people around here, and I've been on council for 4 terms, and each time we have new people, we have new input around this table. And that's the whole idea with the turnover. Different people have different ideas, and there have been some things that were not approved by a previous council I've been on, and with the change in members and the different change in attitudes, that they were, approved in the next one. So my point is that the 4 new members in particular should have the input that is due them, having been elected to their seats, aside from the previous input, which may be influencing our members of staff. And I agree with you, our members of staff are very valuable, but they aren't elected. The 7 people around this table are elected, and we're elected to point the way for this town. And quite frankly, I'm torn by this, because I've done it before, and not more than one occasion, with staff. And I know there's some very interesting things come from staff. And when I see them, I say, geez, I never thought of that. That's a real good idea. But how much of what's in our strategic plan came from staff and how much came from council? It would be interesting to know. We can't determine that now, but it would be interesting to know because the direction of this town is supposed to come from council. Staff is here to advise, to answer questions, not to set policy. That's council's job. Thank you, Mayor Schenker.
Deputy Mayor
So
Lockett?
can I ask a question through you? If we put this line in this survey, what's it going to change?
Can
Yeah,
I
I'm
answer
asking-
that?
Yeah, like
It's not gonna
what's your
change
goal?
anything, but going forward,
When we do the next one in 3
and
years?
going forward, I would think that if some of us are here, I don't expect to be, but if some of us are here, you might think of that and say, okay, well, we're going to include staff this time, but everything that goes up on the wall and everything that winds up here, it's either gonna have a C or an S beside it, so we can see what came from council and what came from staff. And at the end of the day, if we have a whole thing that's coming from staff and not council, maybe we should give it another thought.
So I feel that when we spent the day at the rink and we did it, I felt, I had my say, and I felt that we had a very lively discussion and we had a good balance of give and take. And I didn't at any part feel that the staff was directing what we were saying.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyway, I have to totally disagree with you, Councilor McConnell. I don't think this town runs without the staff. And we always have the final say and the final vote on approving or not approving anything. That is our job as council. They provide us with the information. They provide us with the research. They were partners with us when we did the strategic planning. There's people in the room here that were there the whole meeting, and they did not overstep. They're part of the team, and they will continue to be part of the team. Because as Councillor Burton,
It was a suggestion.
it's a suggestion, and thank you, we'll take it as a suggestion, but I don't think we need to add it to the survey. I think it's a waste of time and not necessary. All right, anyone else? Councillor Young?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. Just a suggestion in, when we're talking about opportunities and threats and challenges, it looks like it may form part of the SWOT analysis, and just wondering if we should add strengths and weaknesses to that. Maybe what people feel our strengths are and what our weaknesses are, and to include that. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Sorry, what's the suggestion? To add strengths and weaknesses to the survey?
Yeah, just to the very first question. What do you identify as opportunities? That part?
Opportunities and in brackets, put strengths and weaknesses?
Put no, like 4 things. Strength.
Oh, what are our strengths?
Yeah,
What are our
strengths, weaknesses, yeah.
Sure. It's, I think,
It's hard to analyze, right?
I think what, and again, this question didn't come from us, it was kind of developed from another source. But I think when I kind of was reading it is that you would be able to identify the strengths and weaknesses from the opportunities and threats. And so, yeah, otherwise, we were just gonna run out of space and trying to
Yeah.
get all of that in there. But certainly, if council wishes to, by all means.
Is there a flavor to add 2 more bullets there? Councilor Campbell, is there a favor?
No, I'm not in favor, sorry, but I found,
Okay.
we were doing our homework for the strategic planning session, like I thought, what's a strength and what's a weakness? I find that whole SWOT thing kind of a bit above people's thinking, I don't know. To me, this says what are the opportunities and what are the challenges? Leave it at that.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna call the question. All in favor of this this motion? Yeah, I read it earlier. Council directs staff to undertake a survey to elicit feedback on the 24-27 strategic plan. All in favor? Carried, thank you. 12.2 is staff report 04-2024 Shakespeare Festival shared space. The recommendation reads that council directs staff to enter into a rental agreement with the St. Lawrence Shakespeare Festival for space at the Prescott Museum and Visitor Center. And mover and seconder for discussion, Councilor Kirkby, Councilor Burton. Matthew, you have this?
Thank you much, Mr. Mayor. So St. Lawrence Shakespeare Festival is looking at ways to reduce their overhead and administration costs and being able to redirect those into investments into the production. So they are looking at ways, obviously, to reduce rental costs, things like that. We do have space at the Leo Boyden Community Center to be able to house costumes and gear, as well as at the Prescott Museum and Visitor Center. We could accommodate some space there to rent to them. So their needs would be a desk at the front, and we identified a space kind of opposite the welcome desk where they could have a desk, and then the area in the back, which is currently housing two offices. So they would be willing to pay $400 a month. That would be for the entire year. And we would suggest that any dollars that we raise through that, we would reinvest back into the collection itself. In terms of security of the collection, anything that is in after hours, we would actually suggest they use the back door to enter and leave the museum, so that way the front door remains locked, it doesn't look like it's open, and the entire collection is safe and secure. So those are just some of the things that I want to bring forward, and again, it's to help them in their long-term sustainability, as well as being able to reinvest back into the production itself.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Councilor Kirkby, then Councilor Burton.
For you, Mayor Shankar. I think this is a great collaboration with the Shakespeare Festival, right? I know that they were currently paying $600 a month for rent, and that they're taking it down to $400 here, plus providing storage opportunity. And, you know, I think it's always good when we can support something like Shakespeare that has volunteers doing active work in the community to make it successful. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kirkby. Councilor Burton.
Thank you. I'm on the Shakespeare board, and I just wanted to thank staff for the great partnership. We were looking at different avenues to house the costumes and to have that window opportunity, to have a window with our display in it to promote the festival. So we looked around and different opportunities, and I think this is going to be a great partnership with Shakespeare, lower the costs, and then they'll be able to help out with the museum as well. So it's going to be a good move on their part. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Burton. Anyone else? Councilor McConnell?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I agree with everything that Councilor Kirkby said in regards to Shakespeare. I'm just kind of wondering why this is coming to us now, though, because I heard over 3 months ago that the Shakespeare was moving into the museum. And then, of course, subsequent to that, we discussed their storage down at the arena, which we were able to accommodate. I was on the Shakespeare board before, Councilor Burton, and what strikes me now, in all honesty, and it's a habit that I have at my own home, and the thing is, the more storage you have, more storage space you have, the more you're going to store. And having been on the Shakespeare board, not their costumes, but the other stuff, their sets and stuff that take up an awful lot of room. They have a lot of it at the pump house. Now we're going to have some at the rink. I think a concerted effort needs to be done, and now would be a good time to do it because they have a new festival director coming in to take a look at this stuff and thin some of it out so they don't need quite as much storage. in conjunction with this, and I am in favor of them moving into the museum, by the way. But in conjunction with this, they had the lighthouse last summer. And are they having the lighthouse again this summer, do we know?
No.
No, okay. And then I won't go any farther down that road, because what I found was the money that we spent giving access to the top of the lighthouse wasn't utilized enough because they weren't open enough. And if we have somebody else going in there, then the hours should relate to more use of the building.
Thank you. Councilor Britton?
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on Councilor McConnell. We waited to look at different avenues for Shakespeare, what was best. We wanted to make sure that we had the visual. And our manager, Ingrid, wanted to make sure that we had some sort of window that we could have a display. So she was looking at different avenues. That's why we waited so long. And Councilor McConnell, we not only have one director, but we have two. And they're married and they're lovely.
Very good. Anyone else have questions to this? I'll just read the motion again. A council directs staff to enter into a rental agreement with the St. Lawrence Shakespeare Festival for space at the Prescott Museum and Visitor Center. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 12.3 is staff report 05-2024, installation of stop signs at the intersection of Sophia and Churchill. The recommendation is that council approve the addition of 2 stop signs on Sophia Street at the intersection of Sophia and Churchill Road West for north and southbound traffic. And that staff be directed to bring forward an amendment to the parking bylaw 47-2017, Schedule A, to reflect the additional stop signs. May I have a mover and seconder for discussion? Councillor Kirkby, Deputy Mayor Lockett. Nathan, you've got this?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Shankar. So since the opening of the new community center in September of last year, the traffic of vehicles has increased around that area, particularly at Sophia and Street and Churchill Road West. And the design of the facility parking lot entrances creates kind of some particular traffic there as well. So what we're suggesting is that the new southern entrance to the ACC, it's quite close to that intersection. And I think that is causing a bit of confusion, particularly if you're coming out of the arena and somebody's going straight and you think they're going to be turning onto Churchill, but they're going to be going straight maybe to the dog park. So we're suggesting that because of the increased traffic and because of the proximity of the entrance to the street of Churchill, that we put 2 stop signs. We've kind of shown a little picture of what that would look like. So you'd have a stop sign at each side of the intersection. So it would be a 3-way stop. And yeah, I think this would reduce reduce the possibility of a potential collision there. So yeah, it's a really straightforward report. Council could choose, not to proceed with the stop signs, or if there's any other alternatives they might have. And really the cost to supply the signs is paid through the operational budget and would be minimal. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richard. Does anyone have a question for Mr. Richard?
I have no question, but I strongly support that because I travel that road a lot and I've seen 2 very, almost really serious. So I think it's a great idea, Nathan.
Right. In that case, I'm just going to call the question unless I need to read the recommendation again. All in favor? Great. Thank you. 12.4 is 2024 projects, initial review. Matthew, you have this report.
Thank you very much.
Information only?
Yes, it is fine.
Okay.
Just going through the initial project listing. So we're going to go through the timelines as well as the initial list. So tonight, January 15th, we're going through the initial list, and then our next topic after this report will be the Transportation Parks and Rec. Excuse me. So it's broken down into 4 sections: projects previously approved and in progress, 2024 health and safety project requirements, 2023 project ideas that weren't chosen to move forward, and new 2024 projects. So as you can see, starting with the lighthouse, going through several items such as the rescue fire pumper, the zoning bylaw review, downtown beautification plan, fixing the parking lot at the on Center Street, those types of things were included and approved previously, and they're in progress. And then a grand total of about 8.6 million that we have on tap for this year that's already in progress and approved. When we take a look at several other items that have been added since, or our fire and our health and safety, is the fire department replacement gear for $30,000. That's a yearly annual amount. Addressing plate structure deficiencies, that's 10,000. EDOC was, the replacement of it was previously approved, and we're just, it's out for tender and we're waiting the results of that. And then the water treatment plant filter upgrade, we're working on the design for that, and we'll hopefully be ready for council for release of tender in a short while. So that's another 740,000. So when we take a look at the 2023 projects we went through, we did send a request to council and to our senior staff to review all of those projects. We did get back kind of a listing from council identifying whether they're yes or no's on each of those. That's identified in the council column. We discussed as staff whether we see it as something that you know, it needs to perhaps stay on the list for future years, such as Walker House exterior bricks, repairs and painting. While we don't see it that damage is occurring to it currently, it is something that will need to be addressed at some point. And then identify whether they could be held to a future year or if additional research is required. So I made some recommendations on the right-hand side, whether to move them to 2025, consider it in 2024, or remove them from the list altogether. When we take a look at the 2024 project items, each of the council senior staff submitted ideas for projects, and that's what you see in that listing here. So really what we're trying to do is figure out what projects do we want to keep from 2023 to move forward to 2024 on that listing. And then if council is okay with the recommendations of the 23 list, then our next step is to combine what's left of 2023 with the new ideas for 24. And similar to last year, you would identify your top priorities and submit that back to staff so that we can have our next meeting in February. I believe it's the 26th to review the overall priority list. But more than happy to answer any questions there might be. I wasn't intending on going through each and every project just because there's several pages of them. But we can address them one-offs if there's specific questions.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Any questions for Mr. Armstrong? Ms. Campbell?
Through you, Mayor Shankar. I'm just wondering about the waterfront trail signs. Is that the responsibility of the town of Prescott to place those, or is it more of a provincial thing?
So the waterfront trail is ours, and so it would be our responsibility. There was only one councillor that noted them, and that's kind of where we were with it.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to know which jurisdiction they were under. Thank you.
Anyone else? Matthew, in a nutshell, we're going to bring this back February 26th. You want some input from council?
Correct. So what we'll do is, similar to last year, we'll put the entire list together. You'll identify what I believe your top 10 will be, and then submit that and collect all of those from each of council as well as staff's top 10, and then bring that back to the council meeting in February and decide, do we agree with what that's looking like so far, and what dollar values are we talking about, and what would be the funding source.
I think that's very important is to have a dollar value beside something, just so that we know we're already spending $8.6 million this year, plus another 740, so, 9.4 million. If you have an idea, but it's a $3 million idea, I don't know if we have the budget for that, but if it's just something that takes staff time, then our operations time, then it's good. So maybe if all possible, we can put an idea of what the dollar value is.
Sure. So even on the 24 project, so we can go through and just put a really rough estimate. I'm gonna have to specify it's gonna be rough, just because we might not fully understand the extent of the project, but at least we'll give council an idea of, is this a $10,000 item or is it a $200,000 item?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Seeing no more questions, we're gonna move on to item 12.5, the 2024 budget, the transportation and recreation overview. Again, Matthews for information, so you've got the floor.
Thank you very much. So again, we're talking about the transportation and recreation budget at this point. So we'll go through the timelines, the transportation services and recreation services. So again, February 15th is where we are today. February 5th, we'll be tackling environmental, water and wastewater, planning and development, and the library. The library asked for a little bit more time to discuss their 2024 budget with the board. And so certainly be more than happy to help accommodate that. From a transportation perspective, there's the operations, there's roads paved, there's bridges and culverts, roads traffic, sidewalks, roads winter, sidewalks winter, parking lots, street lighting, and the river route. So from an operations perspective, we're actually going down by 320,000. If you'll remember when we closed the Leo Boyden Community Center, we brought that entire group together and dealt with them as one, and they were under the operations grouping. And then now that we've brought the Land Charter and Community Center and the Seymour Recreation Complex back online, then we're breaking them back out again. So that is a decrease of 320,000. You'll also remember that we added one operations employee back to address the loss of 4 going and working at the arena for the winter, and so bringing that roads crew back up to 6, as well as the custodian position. So roads paved is where we spend most of the money for doing repaving. Grant is going up by approximately 21,000 this year. It also includes line painting and some money for routing and sealing cracks. Bridges, that particular budget only covers the evaluation that we have every second year because the bridge work was done in 2023 and finishing up hopefully in the next week or so. And our next evaluation should be in 2025. Roads traffic is basically where vast majority of our repairs and maintenance for the vehicles as well as the fuel, our crossing guards are charged, things like that. So with that budget, there was a decrease in premiums, insurance premiums, by going with a new provider last August. And so that had a fairly large effect on that particular budget. Sidewalks is where we have sidewalk replacement, and you can see that no change from 2023 budget to 2024. Winter roads, we are seeing an increase in the sand and salt usage. So not going completely to what we saw in 2023, but increasing it to an amount that we could see that we'd spend in 2024. Sidewalk winter is to pay for the sidewalk plow. Then parking lots, we're seeing an increased usage, and that's for the clock tower parking lots, but the usage in hydro is increasing, and we relate that back to the EV chargers. Street lighting, slight increase there. We're just seeing the cost of the electricity going up year over year, and so reflecting it in the 2024 budget. And finally, the river route, it looks like a massive increase, but similar to what we did with the cemetery, we're recording the entire amount as opposed to just the net that are our portions. So while there's $154,000 increase in cost, there's also $154,000 increase in revenue. And so the net effect is exactly the same on the bottom line, but wanted to make that note. So when you take a look, we're going from 2.7 to 2.5 million, or a decrease of 161,000. But as I mentioned, when you increase, or when you take into account the increase in the grant paving, as well as increase in the grant or the reporting of the grant for the river route, then in that particular case, we're actually having a net decrease of 336,000. Before I use transportation, any questions?
I don't see any.
Okay. Moving over to recreation, so that includes recreation culture, parks, recreation programs, Walker House, marina, pool, the Leavenworth Community Center, the Seymour Recreation Complex, as well as the Landshark Community Center and Hollywood Museum. Rec culture, that's where we pay for the library grant as well as our community grants. And as I mentioned earlier, the offset for the cemetery is recorded there as well. The parks, again, we're breaking out the parks. So in the staffing, so that's the vast majority of the increase, 309,000 to there. Recreation programming, just a reflection of the increase in the number of hours that we're providing in rec programming, as well as increasing pickleball, things like that. Walker House, just a small decrease, and that was due to insurance premiums. Marina decrease was due to insurance premiums. Pool is up, and what we're seeing there is the increase in the minimum wage is forcing the Y to increase their wages as well to attract staff. The Leavenworth Community Center, significant decrease there. Part of it is the transfer of the reserve. So before we had $300,000 going into reserve, helping to pay for some of the costs of the new arena. That's now being switched over to the SRC ACC, and as well as a decrease to insurance premiums. And then finally, we have the new arena. So you see a $312,000 increase in that. However, 336 is the offset from above, and then we have 320,000 additional revenue. So all told, we're coming in pretty close to 50 or 60,000, and part of that is also reallocated from the parks and operations from above. So pretty close to where we thought we would end up. Obviously, there's a couple of things that have surprised us. Electricity, the cost of that has been interesting, as well as the cost of natural gas. Both of those, after the first couple of months, have actually come back into more in line. So just acclimatizing the building, getting it up and running seems to have mostly fixed that problem. And finally, the museum, just a small increase there, mostly due to wages and rent increase. So all told, up 716,000 for this group. However, it's a net increase of only 382. And when you take a look at the previous one, where we had a net decrease of 336, then across the two areas, which are fairly large areas for the town, then we're actually only up a net of $50,000. So when we take a look at this overall, so we've already talked about health and social services, administrative and protective services, transportation being our largest area, and then followed by recreation. You can see that we're going from 9.5 million to 10.3, which is an increase of about 800,000, but there's 510,000 of additional revenue attached to that, and so a net increase of 334. Of that 334, 175 is St. Lawrence Lodge alone. I can provide an update that we will be meeting with them later this week on Thursday, and hoping to get more information on that. So I'm happy to answer any questions there might be. In terms of the next budget, so it'll be environmental, water and wastewater, planning and development, as well as the library.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Is there any questions? Mr. McClellan?
Can you give us a little closer idea of where the 509,000 additional revenue comes from?
Sure. So 320 of it comes from the new arena and bringing that online. 154 comes from the river route and recording the total revenue and expenditures as opposed to just the net. Then from there, we have 20,000 in the paving budget funding, and then 14 in cemetery, which brings us pretty close to the to that mark. I think that brings us to 480 or 490.
Close enough. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Mr. Armstrong? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, item 13 is, there are no items under 13, so which is resolutions, and 14 is bylaws. There are nothing under bylaws. New business is 15, there are 3 items under new business. Item 15.1 is a motion to request for a listing of vacant municipal property, and Councillor Campbell has this motion.
Yeah, so my motion is that council direct staff to present to council a comprehensive list of all vacant bracket available town-owned properties within the municipal boundaries, and that the list includes current zoning of the properties. And my rationale for this is all to do with affordable housing. I have questions about whether we have a target number of houses, apartments. Oh, do I talk about this now?
Excuse me.
I think first you should get a mover and a seconder.
Okay.
Okay, and then we can have the discussion. So you're gonna move it?
Yes, please.
Do we have a seconder? Mr. McConnell.
Thank you, sorry. Do we have a target number of houses that we're planning to build? Is it based on evidence-based research on who needs the housing? I feel that instead of looking at properties piece by piece, if we saw the whole town, all the vacant properties, we get a better idea of what kind of property, what kind of buildings we want on them, how many, and who they're gonna service. So I did talk to Carolyn Leguto from United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, and they've come up with a large report, of which I have the executive summary, of an assessment of current social housing needs, demands, and supply in Leeds and Grenville. So basically, just to summarize, our population in Prescott has actually gone down since the last census. And we are also aging. So again, it's this kind of information that if we realize, I know we're trying to attract young families, but again, it's all part and parcel of how we're going to plan for how we want to develop our community. So the youth population is decreasing in Prescott. The older adult and senior population is increasing. In terms of income, Prescott has the lowest median household income in the counties. So this is where we can help in terms of affordable housing. So I know we all talk about affordable housing, but I had to ask her the question because there's different programs. So affordable housing, there's dollar incentives, funding programs, whether it's through the province, through CMHC, through United Counties of Leeds and Grenville. So it all depends on what you're planning to build and the kind of incentives you can receive for that. She mentioned if the town itself builds our properties up, we can partner with the United Counties, then more funding is available. This has happened in Rideau Lakes, Augusta, where they set up corporations of a board of directors and one staff member from the town. Gananoque is getting involved with that as well. She suggested we just establish a need in our municipality, what lands are available, what we can afford to build, and through the least constraints possible, whether there's wetlands or brown fields or whatever. She said many communities hire consulting firms to determine this need. You can also set up affordable housing task force to look at what we're trying to do. And there is a housing assessment resource tool online, which I tried to get through, but didn't quite make it. But it tells you exactly what Prescott needs in terms of whether it's apartments for rent, whether it's houses, whether you need 1-bedroom apartments, whether you need 3-bedroom apartments, it's all there. So basically what I'm trying to say is if we can, as a council, have a discussion about how we want to look at our town, how we want to help with affordable housing but not just pick properties here and there and try and decide singularly. It should be a comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Any comments? Councillor Kirkby?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Shanker. Mary, would you want to know which lots are serviced? For myself, I would think it would be important to know what lots are serviced. I don't know how much work that is, Matthew. And then is it possible that there's a list of United County housing that exists already in Prescott? Could that be, because I believe
Yeah.
some of them are on prime
Yeah.
waterfront land also. So it'd be good to capture some of the lands that they already occupy in Prescott. And just to capture that stuff would be, I think, helpful in the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Councillor McConnell?
Thank you, Mr. Shanker. Councillor Kirby has gone partway down the road that I was gonna go. He mentioned the United Counties. What I was gonna suggest was an amendment to Mary's motion, which I think is very good in itself, but I think it'd be helpful to council if we knew all of the vacant properties within the borders of the town of Prescott, not just town-owned, but privately owned, because as we all know, well, actually, some of us know, sitting around here over the last couple of years, we have sold property for development that hasn't yet been developed, and there's other property owned in town that's been sold for development decades ago and still sits there undeveloped. So I think it would be very helpful to know this property, who owns it, and perhaps we can direct our economic development officer to go out and start contacting some of these people that own this property privately, that are sitting on it, to see if we can't get something done there, either move it along to somebody else or put something in process to see if we can't get, perhaps we can help them with some kind of upper government tier assistance to get along with the development, because it does no good for private land to sit there speculating or undeveloped. If we need housing and there's properties sitting in town privately owned, and there's no reason why it can't be developed, then I think it falls to us to try and help that along. So I would suggest an amendment to Mary's motion to include, along with Justin's, all, whether you call United Counties privately, but all, not all, how would you put it? Any suggestions, Lindsay?
So, excuse me, through you, Mayor Shankar, the amendment could read that the addition of all vacant, available town-owned and privately owned properties within the municipal boundaries.
Would that take, if I may, would that take in United Counties? Because it's not really a privately.
We could, sorry, I'm just looking, I gave Councillor Campbell the only copy of the motion, so I'm looking at it on my phone here.
Do you want me to do this?
Okay, it's fine. We could specifically include town-owned.
Okay, that works for me.
So through you, Mayor Shankar, Councillor McConnell has made a motion to make that amendment.
So the mover and the seconder need to approve that, correct? Yeah, so Mary, do you approve that?
Yes.
And, well, Lee,
Obviously.
okay. All right,
Sorry, so we're approving the amendment. So now, after you call the question, I'll read the revised motion.
okay, I'll call the question.
On the amendment.
So you're gonna read the question, right?
So sorry.
So you're gonna read it?
The amendment would read that the main motion be amended by adding privately owned, all vacant, available, town-owned, privately owned properties, as well as properties owned by the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville.
And
So just to clarify, Mr. McConnell, what are we gonna do with this information about the private vacant lands or buildings?
It would be lands.
Not what about vacant buildings? You want that in there too?
No, I don't. That's something else entirely. This, I think, if I may, what I get from Mary here, or at least my impression of that motion in reading it and hearing her reading it, is that she's concerned with the town-owned land that is not currently being used for something else, which would be vacant land. I'm simply saying that in addition to that, we should also be concerned with the private vacant land. So if we are deciding that we want to do something with the town-owned land, we should also be looking at the private owned land, because I think there is a considerable amount of that in the east end of the town.
I'm just trying to understand how we fit in on privately owned land.
We encourage development of privately owned. Same as these SIP grants for downtown, we encourage development downtown.
Let me see, I got
with
the hand.
town input.
Thank you.
So if you're taking a look at the strategic plan, priority one, objective one is to do exactly what we're talking about, which is linking vacant property owners with possible builders and developers to meet with them to understand. So, yeah, you can do what you want with the motion, but I think well in the street.
That's great. All right, so did you have a further point?
is it still time to discuss, or do we,
I called the question, she
can
read,
I discuss after the question?
no.
Yeah. My whole objective is to get us to take this information and try to develop a strategic plan, basically, on affordable housing in the town of Prescott. And if that's what that motion indicates, if it's our tool to do that, then
Okay, I don't think it would be called a strategic plan,
know.
because we're already doing a strategic plan. So why don't we get the information and then take it from there?
okay.
Does that sound reasonable? So I'm gonna call the question, all in favor?
Of the amendment or the motion?
Amendment.
First the amendment, because I don't think.
All in favor of the amendment, okay. 1, 2. Just 2? So that doesn't happen. Now we go back to the original motion.
Yeah.
Can you please read that?
Yep, so the original motion, moved by, I believe, Councillor Campbell. Seconded by Councillor McConnell, was that staff present to council a comprehensive list of all vacant available town-owned properties within the municipal boundaries and how they are currently zoned.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna call that question. I'm gonna call that question.
Can I ask a question before you do, in regards to something that Justin asked?
Okay,
I believe you asked if those properties could be designated as having services or not. Do you want that as part of this motion?
I think that information will come out on its own, on some of it. Just thinking back to one of my previous emails that I have was sent to me, I think over a year ago. So I think it's covered. I think the motion, I think we've discussed it enough at this point.
do you wanna add anything?
The listing will include that information. We already have a database with all this information in it, so that could have just been requested of staff as opposed to going through a notice of motion, but.
Okay, we're good? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, item 15.2 is a resolution from Grey Highlands, the Ontario Energy Board leave to construct. Councillor Kirkby, you brought this forward, so if you've got chat on that.
Yes, I can, Mayor Shankar, through you. So this is a resolution from Grey Highlands right? And it's on the need to modernize the current Ontario Energy Board leave to construct. So currently, the threshold for projects in Ontario is 2 million, right? This was done over 20 years ago. And the 2 million back then was to capture big projects, right? We're 20 years later, and the average project, I mean, a small project for any time they run natural gas lines is $2 million. So what ends up happening is a lot of these projects get delayed, right? 6 to 7, 8 months. It also ends up costing the project anywhere from 50 to upwards of $100,000 in doing all the application process for this. So researching this, I did a little bit of research prior to this too, but the one thing that stood out was, one, it's 20 years old. It's causing 5 to 7 month or longer delays. It adds $60,000 to $100,000 of fees to the application, right? In BC, the threshold is 20 million for the same kind of lines. In Ontario, by the way, there is no threshold or no nothing for electricity lines that are run, just for gas lines. In BC, they actually also have 15 million. So when I dug into this, the Western Ontario Warden Caucus, which is a group of wardens up in Western Ontario, they cited this as their main reason for losing almost $1.7 billion in development. So they lost $1 billion EV battery plant. They lost a new distillery. They lost 2 agri processing plants, which they valued at 140 million USD. And they also lost the new agri plant that was estimated to be at 225 million USD because of these delays and because of this old act. So with that, looking for support on this resolution.
Thank you, Councillor McConnell. Anyone have a question for Councillor McConnell?
Switching.
He has a beard, I don't.
Councillor Kirkton. Questions for him, Councillor McConnell? That's what I meant to say.
No.
Just so you know, Councillor Kirkby, Roma's in 2 weeks, and I know that some of our neighbors, as well as United Counties, has a delegation to meet with Minister of Energy as well as the Enbridge. So I know that, and it's not secret, Edwardsburg Cardinal has been trying to get natural gas to their dryer. They've got I think they got a big grant for a new dryer, that's correct, yep. But they need the natural gas to help fuel it. So they're getting close to their deadline, so they need some resolvement there. So if asked, we will definitely help them with that delegation. So a call, so we just want to support this resolution? Is that all the motion is, to support it?
So for you, Ms. Shankar,
Thank you.
have a draft recommendation. That the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Prescott support the resolution from Grey Highlands regarding the reduction of red tape for more cost-effective timely energy connections in Ontario. And then a copy of this resolution is sent to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, the Premier of Ontario, the Ministry of Energy, the Minister of Energy, the Minister of Finance, and all municipalities within the province.
Do you need a mover and seconder? So moved by Councillor Kirkby, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lockett. All in favor? Carried, thank you. All right, item 15.3 is a resolution from the City of Greater Sudbury, amendments to the Occupational Health and Safety Act to clarify the definition of employer. Councillor Young, you brought this forward, so the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. The City of Greater Sudbury entered into a contract with a contractor experienced in road construction. An employee of the construction company operating the grader, or on the project, struck and killed a pedestrian. And this went all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada. And they found that the city had overlapping duties as an employer to ensure the workers' health and safety. So it's going to be more and more important for owners to evaluate their current due diligence measures. And the result of this decision is going to have a lot of ramifications for owners on construction projects. So I think it's really important that we support this resolution. And I know that our town is looking into see how we can mitigate this happening to us. So, thank you.
Do you want to speak to this, Matthew?
Sure, if I wouldn't mind. So, this came across my desk, Mayor Shankar sent it to me, a little bit before Christmas, and I was frankly shocked that, the province would, interpret this, in such a way that makes a municipality responsible. And it really hinged on the fact that that particular municipality was responsible for inspection of the project. So there is a couple of nuances where we're a little bit different in that we aren't responsible for our inspection. We have that as part of a third-party engineering firm that does the inspection part, and then obviously the contractor, and that's how that works. However, we did send this on to insurance as well, and their feedback was to make sure that any fines, penalties, that sort of thing coming out of a health and safety type claim is the responsibility of the contractor itself. So the couple things, so we will be going forward and making sure that that's included in all of our contracts. But I think it's important that the province created this mess through their enforcement arm. So I think they need to go back and fix it through the legislative side, so that it's very clear what an employer is and is not. Because once you open this door, where does it end? If you go to the extreme, is the CBO and now the employer of the contractor doing a project on somebody's private residence because we're responsible for inspection? So that's a really big issue, and certainly not one that I thought would have come across from the province from an occupational health and safety standpoint, but here we are.
Thank you, Matthew. A motion then?
I do, through you, Mayor Shankar. That council of the corporation of the town of Prescott support the resolution of the city of Greater Sudbury regarding the amendment to the Occupational Health and Safety Act to clarify the definition of employer, and that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Labour, Immigration, Training and Skills Development, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, MPP Steve Clark, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, and all municipalities in Leeds and Grenville.
Thank you. You're going to move that?
Yes.
Councillor Young. Second by Councillor Burton. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right, 16, under item 16.1, we have a notice of motion from Councillor Young regarding Digital Main Street.
Mayor Shankar. Whereas the Provincial Digital Main Street Program funding is scheduled to end March 31st, 2024, and whereas the Digital Main Street Program is a provincially funded program focusing on assisting small businesses with the adoption of technology, and whereas Digital Main Street Program has assisted 85 businesses in Prescott, 129 in South Grenville, which includes Township of Edwardsburg, Cardinal, and Township of Augusta. A total of 59 digital transformation grants have been distributed, including 40 to Prescott businesses, representing a direct investment of $100,000 into Prescott businesses and $147,500 across South Grenville. This program has specifically benefited South Grenville municipalities, including the town of Prescott, by providing assistance with both one-on-one support, webinars for grant application, website setup, e-commerce setup, social media page creation, social media analysis, and content creation. Now therefore be it resolved that the council of the town of Prescott support the continuation of funding for this successful and important program, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Premier, Doug Ford, MPP Steve Clark, the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal, the Township of Augusta, and all other municipalities in Leeds and Grenville.
Thank you. So we're going to bring that back on February 5th to discuss. Thank you, Councillor Young. 17 is Mayor's Proclamation. There's no proclamations this evening. Is there any media? No media. No closed session.
I'm media.
Oh, yeah?
I am. I'm an independent journalist.
Does that count?
Can you identify yourself?
My name's David Bray. I live at 406 Chestnut Street.
And who do you work for?
Anybody go buy my stuff?
Are you being serious? You're smiling pretty big?
Question.
I said I was an independent journalist. So if I have a piece to sell, I'll sell it to a publication.
Have you sold any?
Yeah, I just sold one to the Beacon. So I have a question for council, maybe for you, Mayor. Do you have plans to sell the lot behind this building to a developer to develop housing?
So I'll answer your question. We have declared that property surplus. We are now in a public opinion process for 45 days. That will go till January 26th. After January 26th, council will go over public opinion and make a decision. So there are no plans. Any other questions?
No, I'll wait.
Thank you. So no closed session, no rise and report. Item 21 is the confirming bylaw. That bylaw 04-2024, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on January 15th, 2024, be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councilor Burton, Councilor McConnell, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Item 22 is adjournment, that the meeting be adjourned to Monday, February 5th at 6 p.m. Moved by Councilor Kirkby, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lockett. All in favor? Thank you.